Here we go. Episode 8, ball up top. Another Auburn heat check. It seemed like, based off of our few listening numbers, this is something that you guys enjoy. So we thought we'd do it again. Since the last time we spoke, conference play was about to start. Since then, Auburn has had 3 games, going 1-2 with a loss at UGA in OT by 4, followed up by another loss at home versus A&M by 2, and then beating Arkansas by, I believe, by 22 points at home.
Me too.
But we can kind of go game by game. I actually had the opportunity to go with my brother to Stegman Coliseum for that first game, which was Georgia, the 104-100 loss in overtime. Um, you guys will probably be able to pick it up through listening to this episode, but this has been a very frustrating start. Um, Losing to Georgia was not something I had in my cards. That being said, I think I underestimated them. Between this and the A&M game, this one felt like we actually got beat as opposed to A&M. We lost more. Um,
Yeah.
Santo Sorrell on Georgia. This is someone who, if you don't know who he is, you need to tune in and watch him. His numbers might not jump out of the page, but he is a game wrecker. He might be one of the most underrated players in the country, especially with Georgia having as much success as they've had early in the season. He had 6 blocks in that game, which was absolutely insane. The one run that Auburn went on to get back in the game was when he tweaked his knee and was out.
Yeah.
This year he's averaging 10.6 rebounds on 82% shooting, and he plays 29 minutes a game. He's averaging 3 blocks. He's 6'11", 260 pounds with a 38-inch vertical. This guy is built to block shots. Um, Also, Jeremiah Wilkinson, we've talked about him, 31 points, and Smurf Millender, 24 points. Both small, shifty guards, and they hit some huge threes down the stretch. I do want to give our boys credit for battling in a road game. Scoring 100 points is great. Hot at 25. He got off to a hot start, but honestly, down the stretch, he seemed nowhere to be found. But we lucked out a little bit with Keyshawn Hall. He only had 2 in the first half, at 18 in the second half, kept that game, within reach. And then at the end, I mean, just craziness. Get fouled, down 4, shooting a 3. Hall makes the first 2, strategically misses the last one, and um, Overton gets the board, shoots a fadeaway shot, arguably got fouled, hit it, sent it to overtime. But in OT, we were outmatched. It's a road game. Road games are tough in the SEC. Hod and Jovic, who had a very good game, both fouled out. We are so thin this year. We've talked about it time and time again. When you lose at that point, the game's leading scorer, and then Jovic, who had 12 and 10, and we're already weak interior. I mean, it was kind of, I was pumped that we forced overtime, but it kind of felt like a ticking time bomb as far as um, the loss went. Georgia, great win. But my one call out, and my brother will actually attest to this, is Stegman's adjusting to be a basketball school. The stadium was remarkably quiet until the last minute of the game. I mean, it wasn't an overwhelming home court advantage. But again, that being said, they've off to a great start, and that was a good win for them. Do you have any takeaways on that game, Hunter?
Yeah, I mean, tough the way things played out down the stretch. Would have loved to have Tahad in overtime. I don't know why they sent him to. They should have taken him off the floor because he had his fifth was an intentional foul when we were trying to slow the game down. Um, I would have taken him off the floor in that situation. There was no need for him to pick up a fifth on an intentional foul. But that said, like Auburn's outplayed in this game, in my opinion. To your point, the little run they went on happened when Surreal was hurt, and the second he came back in, I think he made a couple big plays right off the rip, and the momentum in the game felt like it just swung right back. Um, Wilkinson went crazy, but he took 21 shots. He was 9 for 21 from the field, so he wasn't like ridiculously efficient. Um, to me, Millender was the one that really, really stuck out for them. I didn't even know who the guy was. Um, I mean, 5 for 7 from three, 7 for 10 from the field, and yeah, to the point you made, as great as those two guys were scoring the ball, Surreal was the player of the game for me. Like he impacted the game in so many ways. Auburn is already doesn't match up great against a physical big man like that. I think he had 6 blocks, and 15.6 rebounds. Like you said, doesn't really jump off the page, but he impacted the game, in my opinion, as much or more than anybody. Auburn didn't have an answer offensively or defensively for what he brought to the table, and that's again we've beat it to death to this point, but that's probably unfortunately going to continue to be a problem for Auburn throughout the season. But all that said, really fun game to watch. I respect how they fought back. The fact that it even got to overtime was crazy. That game we fell dead in the water, and you just find a way to force it and extend the game. Great job by Keyshawn Hall, kind of strategically missing that last free throw and KO, coming around the side and making that shot. That was extremely clutch, but yeah, just wasn't enough. They were outmatched. Caden Magwood started this game for Tahad, and maybe we can get into this a little bit more, but from what I've heard, there's been some issues with now both of them being late to stuff. And to me, that's just absolutely ridiculous that your star player, basically, the guy coming into the season that thought was going to be the leader on this team, your only returning player is showing up late to shit. That's just ridiculous to me. It's unacceptable. If he wants to be a pro, it's not going to fly. And for that reason, he came off the bench in 2 games, and then we'll get to Arkansas here in a minute. But that's why Magwood didn't even play against Arkansas Saturday. Um, so you've got a team that the lack of discipline that is seemingly off the court, I think sometimes carries over to on the court. Um, and it really feels like at this point that this team will go as far as Keyshawn Hall takes them, and more to come on him with some of the other games. He had 32 in each of the next two. But yeah, nothing more on Georgia. We were outplayed from the tip, in my opinion. I mean, Tahad hit some big shots early to kind of keep us in it, down by 5 at half. Went on a little run in the second half, forced overtime, and um, you know Wilkinson hit a few of those shots in OT that kind of just sealed it. So Georgia's a good team. I think it was going to be a hard place to win on the road. We were like what 7 point underdogs, 7 or 8 point underdogs,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, which in and of itself is crazy. But they played well. They had what felt like what was the rebound differential in this game? I'm just wow. Do you know without looking?
Was it? I personally thought we were pretty close to them in rebounds.
We out rebounded them 50 to 35.
Jeez. I remember looking at it. I think, won the turnover margin, shot more free throws, had more assists, and out rebounded them, and lost that game.
Yeah,
We did all the little things right. Just, I mean, I guess that just goes to show, like, kind of like we said, we just got beat. I mean, we
yeah,
played pretty well and lost the game defensively, and it's something that we'll continue to talk about. This team is really athletic, and for their lack of offense that they run, they should be better defensively. It's starting to get really under my skin, and I think that goes as your leader goes. Tahad, you're a returning player. You're the leader of the team. You're showing up late. You're making $2 million a year. We
yeah.
we swung and missed
Act
on
like it.
we swung and missed on so many guys in the portal, and we put all of our chips in on you. And you refuse to lead this team. I mean, you're putting up okay numbers in big games, but most of those games have been blowout losses. Last year, what I loved the most about you were the youngest player on our team, and you were our closer. You were
Fearless,
arguably the biggest
fearless.
winner. Yeah.
Yeah.
and he's been arguably our biggest loser to this point, stats regardless of the stats. And again, we'll talk about this later, and maybe it's a shift in how we run our offense. Um, and I guess we can carry this frustration into the next game. We lose to A&M 90-88. God, absolutely inexcusable loss. You lose. Every game in the SEC means so much. Home court advantage means everything. And I've been talking about this, at least with this Auburn team. We might not be that good. We might not be that deep, but we have a great home court advantage. You come off of a loss to a not that talented Texas A&M team who lost Mackenzie Mbaka, who's like one of their top two preseason players, and you lose at home. That never happened on a Bruce team. Bad losses at home. Bad losses happen, but not in the jungle. You were also up 10 in the first half and completely blew it.
You up
You had
16 in the second half?
Yeah, I mean it was terrible to watch. You had 13 turnovers to 12 assists. Again, the turnover to assist ratio are killing us. Poor Keyshawn Hall has an efficient 32 and 12, basically single-handedly keeps us in that game. Um, and they had Pop Isaacs. He's a monster, 21 off the bench. And the one thing I'll say on our behalf is, at the end we go down a little bit, we fight back, we get a crazy buzzer beater by Keyshawn Murphy that, I mean, depending on which camera angle you look at, and I don't even know what camera angle the refs are looking at, the ball is off his fingertips. And they overturned it too, which is ridiculous. I don't know that you can, if you're gonna make that call, you should probably stick to what you have on the court. The fact that they overturned it was more ridiculous than anything. But again, that A&M loss was remarkably frustrating. I'm close, and I was very close that night to sinking our season with that loss.
Yeah, I mean, you can sit and harp on the call at the end of the game all day. I think very tough call to overturn, in my opinion. If they would have called that on the floor, I would have said the same. I would have said this is hard to overturn. Like there's not a clear view of it. Um, but that said, you're at home coming off a loss against a team that you are more talented than. I don't know that I'll say we're better than them right now. They're actually having a really good year. They've very much exceeded my expectations, and I think as we speak, they were up on the road at Tennessee. So, it's a good team, and Bucky McMillan's a good coach. A little bit of a weirdo, but um, no reason that you should lose this game at home. You're up 10 at the half. You're up 16. Several minutes into the second half, and you just lay down. And again, Caden Magwood has brought absolutely nothing to the table. Um, Tahad, like when Tahad tries, like facilitates and plays the true point guard position, he does it well. And he did it well for a little bit of this game. Um, but it just is been wildly inconsistent to this point. Like I think we've seen with the Arkansas game that like he doesn't have to go out and score 20, 25 points. I think at the beginning of the year we thought that we would need that to happen to win games. Keyshawn Hall is such a good and effective scorer. He's a better three-point shooter than I thought. Overton has shown more than I expected from him as a scorer. Like Tahad doesn't have to be this guy that has to come out and bury a bunch of threes and drop 20 a night. You're a really good facilitator and you did it well for parts of this game, but it just didn't remain consistent throughout. Um, and again, to the point about defense and athleticism, like we've seen it, we've seen them do it. It's just they don't want to, or they don't try to, or for whatever reason. Um, and again, I said it from the episode we started this podcast. Defense, to me, more than anything else, is about the mindset and the attitude that you have about it. This team rarely looks to give a shit about it. Um, and that's what allows teams to go on those kill shot runs and either, run you out of a game or run themselves back into a game that you had a comfortable lead in. All the credit in the world to Keyshawn Hall in this game. Again, kept Auburn in it. Had a nice little fight back there at the end. Um, and just, chips didn't fall in our favor there at the end. Jakari Lane had a really nice game for A&M. Rylan Griffin, I was fully expecting him to show up to Neville and start burying threes, as it seemed he did a couple times when we played him at Alabama.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and then Pop Isaacs, like you mentioned, off the bench, super efficient. Four threes made, had 21 points. Just inexcusable loss, in my opinion. It sucked the way that it went down and the way that it ended. And it sucks to lose a game like that again off a loss on your home floor, where we actually this time were, I think, a 6.5 point favorite. To let them back in and come and steal one on our floor.
Yeah, it was pathetic. It's a feeling that I've gotten used to, I will say, the last 3 years of Auburn sports in general, but it hasn't been from the basketball team.
Right. Yeah.
Again, though, you lose. You got another home game. Vegas, trap line, I will say, and it caught all three of us on the podcast. After
Sure did.
watching that A&M game, you see that we're 2.5 point favorites against a team that when we did our re-rank of the SEC, Arkansas was, I think, two of our threes picked to win.
Yeah. I
And
think
you
they were
get
mine.
that, you get them at home, and I mean, you beat the hell out of them. And
Built ass.
yeah, and I'm an emotional sports fan if you guys haven't picked that up already, but that's a win that like right when I like think you're out, they pull you back in a little bit. And you just did, I thought, a great analysis of kind of how our team I think needs to be going forward. Every time we lose, we're getting killed. We're losing the turnover to assist battle by a lot. Hod, not very efficient, but he has 30 some points. Well, in this game against Arkansas, Hall took the lead with scoring again, 32 points, followed by Murphy at 16, Overton at 10. Hod has a career high, 7 assists, and I don't think that many turnovers. Our team had 20 assists, which was the second highest all season. Um, I think we've lost a lot with the way Murphy plays defense down low. He is not a very good defender for as athletic as he is. That being said, one thing I think we've forgotten about is he's a very talented scorer for someone who's 6'10", 6'11". He can
Yeah.
stretch the three. He's very athletic. He has a great turnaround move. We saw this again today. So now, looking at the season as a whole and watching this game, I mean, it was just one game, but you have your best assist to turnover ratio. Hall continues to be confident scoring, and I have all the confidence in the world for him to maintain that. Overton has shown you double digit points now in like 5 straight games, and you finally got something going when you played through Keyshawn Murphy. So, as you mentioned earlier, maybe Hod needs to take a step back like he did last year. You want to be the closer and take some shots at the end of the game, sure, but maybe we start to run the offense through some of the other guys. You focus more on, running an offense, passing the ball, spreading the floor, something like that, because we looked great and we did a good job. This is the first time all year that I think we played a good team from ahead. I think against NC State and St. John's, both of those games we fell behind at times. This game, foot on throttle the entire time. Defense looked great. Offense finally looked like we were running an offense. And a huge win. That brings you to what I think 10-6 and 1-2 in the SEC.
Mhm.
Not the start you dreamed of, but a tough schedule has led to a bunch of those losses, and then you pick up a big win with a win at Arkansas. Oh, against Arkansas.
We won this game because we gave a damn and we actually acted like it and played like it. I haven't seen us play that hard on either end of the floor. I think since the second half of the St. John's game, I was looking back at our schedule, um, trying to find, even a half where it felt like we played a, complete wire to wire half of basketball. And that's the one that really kind of came to mind for me. Um, Again, they dug their heels in and they gave max effort on the defensive end of the floor, and you held a very good team to 73 points and beat them by 22. It just goes to continue to show that they're not incapable. They're capable of playing good defense. They're athletic. Um, they seem to communicate okay. It just really feels like half the time the effort and the mindset's not there. And Saturday it was, and they stayed foot on the gas, like you said, the entire time. I was glad to see Jovic got out there. I was worried after his injury in the A&M game that he might be out for quite a while. He gave 7 and 4 in 12 minutes. That's productive. Elijah Freeman again, nice game off the bench. Mushalik actually played a little bit in this game, gave some really good defensive minutes. He's like over aggressive sometimes.
Yeah.
He's just that scrappy white dude that gets in there and is trying to be all up in your grill. But I love it. I mean, he brings more to the table than Magua does right now, if you ask me. At least being able, he's a good athlete and he's bigger. I think he's like 6'3", or he's not small for a point guard or a two guard. Um, and yeah, you scored 95 points. Todd Bedford had six of them. And that's not to say like Auburn needs Todd Pettiford to score points. Like I'm not writing that off and saying that he needs to just take a back seat. Like we need him to be an alpha on this team. But I think it goes to show when he plays that kind of old school facilitating point guard role, we've got guys that he can get the ball to make plays and make shots. And again, Keyshawn Hall, phenomenal, 11 for 14 from the field, 4 for 5 from three. Normally, he only had 2 rebounds in this game. Normally, he brings a handful of rebounds on top of his scoring. Guy's an All-American caliber player. I mean, that's back-to-back 30-point games. He had 20 in the Georgia game. He's lighting the world on fire, and I think at a national level, it's going a little bit unnoticed just because Auburn has struggled. Um, but all the credit in the world to him, and what he's brought to this team. I think we'd be in really bad shape. If it weren't for him. But again, we weren't like, I mean, we shot 45% from three. So that was, I think, probably one of our better shooting performances. We out rebounded them by 9, so not crazy, but we out assisted them by 11. And again, assist has been something that's shown up in some of those blowout losses where we had like less than 5.
Yeah.
Was it the Michigan game? We had 0.
Yeah. Something like that. Something.
Yeah. So Freeman had 3, Hall had a couple, he had 5, Tahad had 7. Tahad had more assists than he did points. And you scored 95 against a team that I think most people were, if them or Vandy, dubbing as the best in the SEC, at least at this point. I thought they did a decent job containing Acuff. He still scored 19 points, but that was on 16 shots. He was 7 for 16 from the field. Um, so Carter Knox didn't do anything. Malik Thomas had a pretty decent game, but you held a really, really talented and honestly, it's been a really good, well coached team, I think, this year. I know people like to harp on Cal and him not getting the most out of the talent that he normally has. Some of the games I've watched them, I feel like they've been really well coached and played really disciplined for several of their games this year. Um, and again, Auburn, it was belt to ass from wire to wire. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for Auburn fans. I know watching these 3 games in a row, but it's in there. I think if anything, Saturday showed you that this team is capable of that kind of ceiling, and those are the type of games you're going to need if they do get into the NCAA tournament. As a bubble team or maybe an 8 or a 9 seed, you're going to have to play that well to pick off a 1 or a 2 or whatever it is, if you want to make it to the second weekend, which we'll continue to see how things go over the next few weeks. I think we've got some winnable games coming up, and I'm hoping that they can build off of what they showed the other night. I hope Steven and Burgo and the staff can kind of build off the momentum from this win. And you've got 3, and anywhere on the road in the SEC is going to be tough. So I'm not saying that any of these are, should wins, because it's a deep league and Auburn has proven to be probably closer to the middle of the pack than the top of the pack at this point. But you go to Missouri, you get South Carolina at home, you go to Ole Miss. I think we would both agree from a talent perspective, at least, that Auburn has the talent edge in all three of those games. Um, but again, tough to go on the road, and you're going to have to bring that defense with you when you go because it's, again, it's going to be a grind for the next 2.5 months, or a month and a half to the end of February, beginning of March. And from there, it gets rough.
Sure.
You got a 6 game stretch after that Ole Miss game, that third game I just mentioned, at Florida, Texas at home, who just picked off Bama, Bama, Vandy. You go to Arkansas. That's murderer's row. Like
Yeah.
it's not getting any easier after a 1-2 start. So hopefully they found something. Again, they're capable. They've got guys that can score. They're going to be a little bit outmatched up front. Um, and our depth is not really great, but you gotta work with what you got. So, be interesting to see as we go forward, can they find some of those takeaways from that Arkansas game and really build off of them?
Sure. And I mean, if you want to spin zone it, you can argue, having a loss like that to A&M and then the response that you get and, Hod being benched for maybe not showing up on time, not taking leadership role. Maybe that's a good wake up call to have. And if you're going to have it, maybe this early in the season, if you can rally behind it, it's something that could be good for this team. Not to mention, if you, I mean, you had two buzzer beaters away from being 3-0 in the SEC despite bad play. Like you're right there, even in your bad games. But you're right; it's a total effort thing, and it starts with Hod. It starts with your leaders. In March, as much as I love Hall, at some point you're going to need a guard to hit big shots. Magwood appears to be nothing, so to Hod and Overton, keep it up. But
Yeah.
let's figure something out. Like you mentioned, Murder's Row towards the back half of our SEC schedule. Again, 10-6, 1-2 in conference. Our look ahead, our next 5 games, and again, you just hit on them. This, at worst case, is a 4-1 stretch. You go 4-1. I think you're looking at the end of those 5 games. You'll be 14-7. You'll be 5-3 in the SEC. You'll be right in the hunt. You'll have all the confidence in the world back. That being said, you got to go 4-1. You start on the 14th tomorrow at Missouri. Missouri is 12-4, 2-1 in the SEC. They're undefeated at home. That's a little nerve wracking, especially because they beat Florida there too. A
Yeah.
good or a decent Florida team. I'm not really sure. That being said, if you're into Vegas, we're 1.5 point favorites. So
I love the way those have been looked.
from a talent perspective, from a Vegas perspective, let's go ahead and win that game. Then you got South Carolina on Saturday. They're 10-6, 1-2 in the SEC, just like us. That being said, they played UGA and Vandy very close the last couple of games. It's a scrappy team. If you don't show up, you will lose. Then you've got at Ole Miss, at Florida versus Texas. You have a talent discrepancy, as you said, against Ole Miss and Texas. I think if you win Missouri, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Texas, which you arguably are probably going to be favored in all 4 of those games, then you go to Florida, which, say what you want about Florida's team or not, they could be horrible. We can't win in their arena. I would say we're probably heavy underdogs there. But again, very winnable games. 4-1 to me is a great goal. And yeah, 5-3 in the SEC, 14-7. That's doable.
I think so. Would that be your like take the emotion out of it prediction for the next five? Would you go as far as to predict 4-1, or you think they get picked off somewhere?
Honestly, you know, while I just spin zoned it, I think we go 3-2. I think it's highly probable that we slip up on the road.
I agree with you, and I think it's unfortunately probably tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, and 1-3 in SEC play, that's an uphill battle. But again, yeah, South Carolina, take care of business. Come on. And same thing with Ole Miss. I know Ole Miss is on the road. They're 9-7, and I mean Malik Diaz is a good player. Store is get under his skin a little bit. He'll throw hissy fit and get thrown out of the game or something.
Yeah.
Um, you're not winning in Gainesville. Sorry. I'll put the put the nail in the coffin on that one
Yeah.
now. Not to mention they are they had a tough loss at Missouri, but they've rounded into form. They've whooped now back to back Georgia and Tennessee, who are two of the better teams in the league. And I don't like the matchup for us with their front court. I think how Condon, Chinulu, Big Micah, they're going to be just way more than we can handle. I think even aside from them being a good team, I think that's one of the worst matchups for us in
Sure.
terms of man for man on our
I think
schedule.
you get a great matchup in that game for maybe underrated players of the year in the SEC when you've got Haug going up against Keyshawn Hall. I mean, they're not
Yeah.
probably underrated in the whole landscape of basketball, and I definitely don't think they are. I love both those guys, but when it comes to like player of the year awards, they're not being talked about, and I think both of those guys going head to head is going to be quite the battle.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And again, and then Texas is the last one. I think they're a good team. They've shown the ability to go on the road and upset, an SEC contender and what they did in Tuscaloosa. But take care of business at home, dude. Just do what it takes. You're capable of beating just about anybody. I think after what we saw Saturday, um, you got to be more consistent, man. I know that we were right in those two that we lost, but even within those games, it was very up and down. And half the time, you'd go 5 minutes and then another five, and it didn't look like the same team from one 5 minute period to the next. Um, so, continue to dig your heels in, give an effort on the defensive end. I think we've got enough guys to hit shots, but we're not. I won't try to pretend we're in a great spot right now because we're not. 10-6, 1-2 in the SEC. Six losses already. I mean, UC teams miss out on the bubble that have what 9, 10
Yeah.
sometimes, and I think we've got the resume to our benefit with who some of those losses were to, albeit ugly. Um, but if you drop 3 or 4 in your next 10, you're you're flirting with that bubble, man. And it gets a little bit more favorable towards the end with Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, LSU. Obviously, you got two against Bama, but it opens up a little bit towards the middle to end of February. But if you got 10 losses with 6 games left, that's trouble.
Yeah.
So we'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah. And very pivotal next 5 games. We hope to have another episode maybe this Sunday overarching the college basketball landscape, but thought we'd give you this Auburn recap as it's been a little bit. So thank you guys for listening, and until next time.